This is an ABC News special.
This is America's day. This is democracy's day. A day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again. We've come so far, but we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do. To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity.
The inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
Good evening and welcome back to our inaugural coverage. As President Biden said in his inaugural address, a day of history. The oldest American president swore his oath at the Capitol, where just 2 weeks ago, a mob provoked by his predecessor put our democracy to the test. Kamala Harris made history with her oath, too. And tonight they celebrate before the hard work ahead with a gala hosted by Tom Hanks, featuring Bruce Springsteen, John Legend, so many more. That's coming up at 8:30. We're going to air it all. And we begin with a look at the high moments of a memorable day from our chief White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega. Good evening, Cecilia.
George, good evening to you. A memorable day, a historic day, so many firsts, and the message we heard time and time again was all about unity, and President Biden spoke directly to those Americans who did not vote for him.
Best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
This hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. Let's start afresh. Let's begin to listen to one another again. Hear one another. See one another. Show respect to one another.
He's a good man. And in my world, that's the best thing you can say about somebody. I think he's the perfect person for the time.
Today, we mark the swearing in of Vice President Kamala Harris.
So help me God.
Don't tell me things can't change.
I believe Kamala is the key to uniting us. Being a woman of color and the diversity that she brings to this office is what we need as a country.
True strength is measured not by who you beat down, it is measured by who you lift up.
I am one of the 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the shadows of the United States. I am actually very full of hope because I really think that change is fast approaching.
History, faith, and reason show the way. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors.
I don't think that, our country can take much more infighting. I'm an American before I'm a Republican, and so I want him to do well. I want our country to be successful.
I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans.
Good evening. It was a day of new beginnings and sacred traditions. The peaceful transition of power from one president to the next. And for the very first time, the Vice President of the United States is a woman. At 78, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. of Delaware is the oldest man ever to serve as president and one of the most experienced. 56-year-old Kamala Davy Harris of California makes history, not only as the first female vice president, but the first Black and South Asian American as well. They were sworn in with unprecedented security at the U.S. Capitol 2 weeks after it was stormed by supporters of President Trump. This new administration faces a world of challenges, chief among them the pandemic that has killed more than 400,000 Americans and sharply limited the inaugural ceremonies. Well, tonight, we introduce you to the 46th president and the 49th vice president with the help of the people who know them best, their closest friends.
From NBC News. The inauguration of Joseph R. Biden Jr. Here's Lester Holt and Savannah Guthrie.
Good evening, everyone, and what has been a historic day in the life of this country. A new president and vice president and a new beginning with the pomp and ceremony of the day now mostly over. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have already gotten to work. The president signing some new executive orders in the Oval Office this evening, and the vice president presiding over the Senate and swearing in 3 new Democratic senators.
Inaugurations are always about aspirations for the future. Today was no exception. And over the next half hour, we're going to take a look at what the Biden administration hopes to accomplish. They've got big ambitions and big challenges. We're also going to look back at what has been a remarkable day, a day when, in the president's words today, democracy prevailed.
And we should know that coming up after this, you may want to stay tuned for an all-star primetime special hosted by Tom Hanks and kicking off with Bruce Springsteen from the Lincoln Memorial in celebration of today's inauguration.
We've got our team of correspondents and guests standing by to help take us through this eventful day and take a look ahead. And we're going to start with senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson. Hallie, good evening.
Savannah, good evening to you. And tonight, President Biden is already clocking in hours at the Oval Office, signing a slew of new executive orders, capping off a day that made history. He's promising unity, but that's easier said than done, given the president is inheriting a deeply divided nation, a devastating pandemic, and the fallout from an attack on democracy itself.
Promising to heal a country in crisis, Joe Biden stepped onto the Capitol stage and into a role he's longed for 34 years.
I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
Office of President of the United States.
And will.
The 46th president sworn in, his hand on a 127-year-old family Bible held by his wife, Dr. Jill Biden.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And for the first time ever, a woman, and a woman of color, became the vice president.
I, Kamala Harris, solemnly swear.
Kamala Harris, now the nation's first black and Asian American person to ascend to that office, sworn in by the first Latina Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor.
So help me God.
And embracing her husband, Doug Emhoff, after taking the oath.
Good evening, America. I'm proud to be here in cold Washington, D.C. tonight. I want to offer this small prayer for our country. This is land of hope and dreams. Grab your ticket and your suitcase. Thunder's rolling down this track. You don't know where you're going now, but you know you won't be back. Darling, if you're weary, lay your head upon my chest. We'll take what we can carry, yeah, and we'll leave the rest. Well, big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. Oh, meet me in a land of hope and dreams. Yeah, well, I will provide for you. Oh, and I'll stand by your side. You'll need a good companion now. Oh, for this part of the ride, yeah, leave behind your sorrows. Let's let this day be the last. Well, tomorrow there'll be sunshine, sunshine, and all this darkness past. Well, big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. Oh, meet me in a land of hope and dreams. Well, this train carries saints and sinners. This train carries losers and winners. This train carries whores and gamblers. This train carries lost souls. I said this train, dreams will not be thwarted. This train, faith will be rewarded on this train. Hear the steel wheels singing, this train, bells of freedom ringing. Well, the big wheels roll through fields where sunlight streams. Oh, meet me in a land of hope and dreams. Meet me in a land of hope and dreams.
Please welcome our host, Tom Hanks.
Bruce Springsteen's Land of Hope and Dreams kicks off tonight's Celebrating America on this day, which saw the inauguration of our 46th President, Joseph R. Biden Jr. I'm at the Lincoln Memorial on the National Mall in our nation's secured capital city. In the last few weeks, in the last few years, we've witnessed deep divisions and a troubling rancor in our land. But tonight, we ponder the United States of America, the practice of our democracy, the foundations of our republic, the integrity of our Constitution, the hope and dreams we all share for a more perfect union. To some, a presidential inauguration is a tradition, an act that marks the commitment of a new four-year term. Yet in truth, Inauguration Day is about much more than the swearing in of our next national leaders. This day is about witnessing the permanence of our American ideal. Every 4 years, we hear the words that will empower us all on the journey ahead, a message that can unite us as we begin a new passage from where we are to where we can be, a trek to a common goal, to the promise of our promised land. The keynote of this day is the presidential inaugural address. The new president, Republican, Democrat, lays out a vision for the nation. If the words ring out, it is not only due to the power of the oratory, it is because the dream of America has no limits and resonates well beyond any single day. Tonight we share memorable passages from the inaugural remarks of 4 of our past presidents. Each spoke to a specific moment in our history. FDR rallied us in the Great Depression. JFK inspired a new generation to serve. Ronald Reagan spoke of the peaceful transition of power for a shining city on a hill. And Abraham Lincoln sought to unite us after a war that tore us apart.